In 3 minutes, we are joining our friend Cody Smith, and we'll be talking about how chess has changed over the recent years. I hope you will like it. Let me know, guys, if you are ready. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Guys, welcome to the stream. We are having a special guest, our friend Cody Smith. And in a moment, I'll just share the link into his channel. But before that, I'll just want to thank you very much for accepting the invitation. I must confess, it was a very long-term negotiations, but finally it is succeeded. And I need to, let's say, point out that you just set up the bar and raise the bar into the longest negotiations.
Well, I know I'm kind of a difficult person to nail down. I'm not very good at planning ahead, which is maybe not a good quality for a chess player. So that's on me. But yeah, I'm happy that we're finally doing this.
Yeah,
But
finally.
yeah, that's all my fault for the delay.
Yeah, finally we have done it. But
Yeah.
you just simply set up the bar so high that I'm not sure if anybody will be able to, let's say, get there. But anyway, it's great that finally we have done it. Okay, guys, you have the link into the chat. I'll be sharing the link from time to time to our friend Cody Smith. Hello, Dagens. Welcome to the stream. We are having a special guest. We'll be talking in a moment about inside the chess community, real and virtual world, and how chess has changed over the recent years. We'll be let's say, talking about various topics. We'll be not analyzing, not playing, but just discussing all of the stuff, because our friend is a very popular one, and he's just having a lot of the various stuff. Therefore, we'll be exploring this. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm great.
Okay, thank you very much for being with us, and let's get started with the recent stuff. What do you think about the fusion about the chess world? Chesscom bought Play Magnus Group. What do you think about it? Just
Oh
for the
gosh,
starter.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't spent, I haven't lost much sleep over it. I mean, I'm a lichess streamer. I've always been sort of more attracted to lichess's model of having everything be free and supported by donations and by the chess community at large. So I think it's not really going to affect me much because I'm 90% on lichess anyway. So I guess it would be better if there were more competition, among the sites that are for profit. So I guess it is probably not a good thing that chess.com is sort of consolidating that entire market.
It's something like a monopoly, don't you think?
Right, a little bit, yeah. So, but at least we have lichess out there, and lichess is a great site, and I really can't say enough about lichess and the team there. So and I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm totally talking down to chess.com, because I do think that they do a few things well. I think that their tactics trainer is a little bit better than lichess's. Actually, that's the main reason that I have a chess.com subscription, is so that I can do the tactics. I think they also have really good they have interactive lessons, like especially about different openings that lichess hasn't really fleshed out as much.
Lichess is very close. I'm not sure if you heard of the recent announcement about Lichess Tutor, because it is going to be very soon. Have you heard about it?
I think I did see maybe a tweet or something about that it was something that the developers have been working on. And I think it sounds like you know more than me, but I think is that supposed to rival sort of the game review thing that chess.com does?
I'm not sure how it is supposed to look like, but I guess it would be some like collecting all of the data they already provided, some like the games, analysis, insights, statistics, all of the stuff, and bringing this into some kind of modules. For example, the modules about how you, let's say, spend your time. Is your time management good or not? For example, some kind of bars that will tell you how much you just get in time trouble. For you, probably it would be very important.
Yeah, I need that really badly. I really need someone to help me on that.
And therefore, of course, this would be probably another modus about the openings, about middle game, about the end game, and probably about the specific, let's say, openings, specific variations, and all of this stuff that they collecting over the years, because they have been, let's say, working on this with the databases, with the games, with the positions, puzzle storm, and all of the stuff. They would be probably making some kind of modus, and it is something like, let's say, similar version that now is at the main menu of the practice, right? Something like the basic lessons about the
Yeah.
models, and they probably expand on it and maybe probably do something a little bit more interactive. That's my idea.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great. I mean, that sounds sort of so. Have you ever used aim chess?
Sorry?
Aim chess, AIM chess?
Yeah, but what was the question about the aim chess?
I was wondering if you've used it because it sounds similar to that.
Probably it may be,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. But because lichess is trying to, let's say, get from best ideas over the market, but all the
Right.
time there are something like tweaking into their own, let's say, model, if I can say that. Therefore,
Right.
I am pretty happy about it because everything that lichess has already published, I am pretty much very satisfied because it's a good quality and it is pretty popular. Many players use it, and most often the time they are very satisfied.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it sounds like what you're talking about with the tutor feature, that sounds similar to what aim chess does, but aim chess you do have to pay for. I don't think they even have any free options. So I like that lichess's philosophy is that they want to do everything that they want every chess tool possible to be available to as many people possible.
Yeah.
And so when there's a tool like aim chess, which is a really good tool, but it's paywalled and not everybody can afford it, then it's great that we have lichess to bring that to more people. So I mean I love their model, and it's just a great site to play on, and those guys are great.
I fully agree. I'm with you with this stuff as well. And let's get into the a little bit official part because we have just started a little bit of warm up. If you can start about your journey, actually, how you started playing chess and how chess evolved over the years at your case, and what is that match that attracted you to this game, not to the other games that we'll be discussing, like Shogi, Scrabble, but this would be on the end.
Okay. Well, I guess, I mean, I started in chess, I guess the same way that probably everyone does. Like, I've heard this story a lot. I'm sure you've heard it a lot. I learned how to play chess when I was a kid. Like, I knew how the pieces moved. I enjoyed playing chess. I don't think I knew, like, the en passant rule and stuff like that. And I certainly never had, like, a coach, or I never took classes or anything like that. It was just, play with friends and family, play against kids at school. And my level of understanding of chess at that time was essentially that I was playing for Scholar's Mate every game.
Oh.
And if Scholar's Mate didn't work out, then I really had no idea what to do.
Wow.
And I mean, I teach kids now, and there are kids that I teach that are like that. They go for a quick checkmating attack, and if that doesn't work, then they're like, uh-oh, I don't know what to do now. So anyway, I really wasn't serious about chess until I was 24, I think, and it was my last year at university. And I can't tell you a specific thing that sparked my interest in chess, but I just started playing chess online, and it just became a part of pretty much my daily routine. I mean, it's very rare that a day goes by that I don't play chess. And it's been that way for, I guess, 7 years now. That was about 7 years ago.
Have you played day by day chess? That's when you started, or was it something like breaks from chess from time to time?
I think I was pretty much. I don't remember, but I think I probably played just about every day. I mean, it sort of just started as a hobby. Like, I mean, for a while when I was younger, I would play video games more, and I think at first it probably was just sort of like a new video game, and then it just became much more serious from there. Okay. So, it's not like, there's a lot of people now that started because of Queen's Gambit, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I can't point to like a moment like that's like, oh, that's what got me interested in chess. It was just sort of, I somehow stumbled upon chess, and it just took off from there.
Got it. And now, if you just, let's say, gave us some insight into your journey, let's get into a little bit of, let's say, conscious decision, if I can say that, because you are known as a chess streamer the most often. Of course, you are a chess coach, chess player, and at the recent time, you are the guest at the chess podcast. We'll be talking about it in a moment. But I would like to ask you about the chess streaming, because we'll be going into the chess community, chess media, all of the stuff will be, let's say, talk about. And I am especially interested, what made you streaming? What was the, let's say, idea behind the streaming? Was it the friend that asked you about it? Maybe chesscom guys, or maybe some like additional stuff that said, okay, let's get into the streaming because it is a new, let's say, endeavor.
I think probably I can go all the way back to around 2016 or so, which is way before I started streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was first sort of discovering, how much I love chess and getting serious about it, the way that I learned chess was through YouTube. So I watched a lot of videos, a lot of Simon Williams, a lot of John Bartholomew, a lot of Chess Network, a lot of Ben Feingold and St. Louis Chess Club. So I think just having learned so much from YouTube, I felt like I wanted to try to put my own, content out there on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember the year, but somewhere along the line, I started making YouTube videos that were literally just me playing, a rapid game on lichess. And then, I did that for maybe a month or two, and it never really went anywhere. And then again, just sort of out of the blue, in 2020, I decided to try streaming to Twitch. And, I guess I should also say I was a viewer on Twitch for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that, I mean, I watched Ben Feingold stream a lot. I watched a lot of those people that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Chess Network, St. Louis Chess Club, John Bartholomew. So I've always just sort of been in the chess streaming and YouTube community, and I was mostly as a viewer, and then at some point I decided that I want to try to, actually be a content creator, if you will. And it's kind of just gone from there. For a long time, I would stream to very few viewers. The first few months that I streamed, I might have one viewer, I might have no viewers. So it took a while to sort of get established. And then once I was able to sort of meet some more people, including yourself through Twitch, then that sort of helped, get a little bit more exposure. I think you and Squirrely were some of the first people that I met on Twitch that kind of sparked my early viewership, let's say. So.
Okay, and therefore we need to say that we need to respect dinosaurs because they can extinct, right? You say me and Squirrely, therefore dinosaurs.
Okay. That's
Okay.
your words, not mine. I didn't say
Yeah,
that.
of course it's mine. I take full responsibility for that. Even if Squirrely is coming on me. No problem.
Right.
Okay, and if you just, let's say, talk us a little bit about streaming, because of course streaming is the, let's say, new media, because I have been in the chess community for 25 years already. It's pretty easy to remember when I started out. I started out chess, I mean officially, if I can say that, when Deep Blue won against Kasparov. You probably remember this moment, right? It was the community, machines against the community, right? And it was the, let's say, breakthrough over the chess world. Therefore, it's easy to remember. But about the streaming, I would like to ask you a little bit more about that, especially because you have the experience, you have the established viewers and the community, and in the meantime, you have, let's say, various collaborations, and therefore, I am pretty much happy about it. A little bit of GLS, even if I do not play any other games, and I am especially interested if you just tell us about the streaming, but in the, let's say, perspective of what was the most experience to you to get into the, let's say, high status, and in the meantime, how did you, let's say, make the collaboration successful?
So you're asking, how did I sort of grow the stream to where it is now and the number of viewers?
What was the experience based on the growing on the Twitch, and in the meantime having all of the collaborations, establishing the viewers, community, and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is really just consistency. I mean, like I said, I streamed for months where I didn't really have any viewers, but I was there frequently. So the viewers that I did have, almost every night I was there. And if they wanted to tune back in, I was available. And then, I mean, I think just sort of being a part of other people's communities, kind of helped, because then when people in those communities found out that I'm streaming, they would give me, a watch and see what my stream was about. So, I mean, like I said, I really think what the catalyst that took me from having like 1, 2, maybe 3 viewers just starting to get into like the double digit range, is I remember Squirrely like rating me one time. And I think, you know, it was maybe like 20 viewers or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But at the time, like that was like a big deal for me. And I remember being like a little freaked out by it. But, you know, just having that sort of connection helped a lot. And then, I mean, another big thing for me was that I've been a moderator in Ben Feingold's channel for a long time. So, you know, a few months into me streaming, you know, he found out that I'm streaming, and I got a raid from him, which was, you know, several hundred people.
Wow.
And that, I mean,
really
that also
impressive.
kind of got the ball rolling. And I guess probably a year or maybe a year and a half after that, at some point, lichess decided to feature me as a streamer. So now, if my stream is live, there's a link to my stream on the lichess homepage, and that also helped a lot. So I don't know if it was anything specific that I did that grew the stream to where it is now. It probably has a lot more to do with the support of, you know, people who were already established when I started streaming. So Squirrely, I mean, yourself, Ben Feingold, and lichess helped a lot.
It is great that you are just listing me next to Ben Feingold, even if I do not play F6. Thank you very much.
Right, yeah.
I'm pretty honored to be next to Ben Feingold, even if I'm not F6 player. But anyway, I am a little bit trying to educate our community as well. And if you're just going into the Twitch as the streamer, I would like to ask you about Twitch as the community. What do you think about our community on Twitch? Do you think it's the, let's say, supportive, is the toxic, or it is some like a mix of that? And what are the best qualities over the, let's say, community that if anybody is listening right now, us, what would be the, let's say, pieces of advice to him or her to start streaming? Not to be afraid of some kind of trolling, toxicity, spam, and so on. What do you, let's say, recommend about it?
Well, I think the best qualities is that even if you're even if you're just starting out, and even if you're not, even if you're a new chess player and you're not particularly strong at chess, like I can just about guarantee that you will get people that will watch your stream and try to help you improve, and that are strong players. So I mean, I've been very lucky. You know, I've never personally paid for any chess coaching or anything like that. I've paid for a few courses on Chessable and books and stuff, but just from streaming, I've been very lucky to have players that are much stronger than me watching the stream that help me understand some concepts that I didn't understand. So that, I mean, that has been a huge boost. And I mean, I want to reiterate, you don't have to get to any specific size of a stream for that to happen. Like, even if you're only at a few viewers, there will probably be someone who will come along sooner or later that it will be interested in helping you improve. That's just one of the great things about the chess community, is that most people want to help others improve. They may not always be the best at it. Sometimes people will do it in annoying ways, but everyone really has good intentions, and they want to help you understand the game and grow the game. So that has been great. And I don't think anyone should really fear getting started on Twitch. I kind of view it as if you're going to be playing chess on your computer anyway, you know, there's not really much difference between playing chess on your computer and playing chess on your computer and having a stream going. At least there doesn't have to be. You know, you don't have to be constantly talking to chat or whatever. You know, you can kind of be doing your own thing and you will still get viewers. So I think, was there more to the question? Did I answer the question?
It's okay. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. I will be, let's say, trying to get into the questions this one or the other way. Take notice that I am trying to make it a little bit of control as well. And I'm interested especially about the Twitch community and Twitch streaming. How much equipment does it require to get into the stream and something like be on the decent level? For example, does it need to, let's say, require to buy a fancy stuff, some like a very expensive camera, or maybe the, let's say, other, let's say, layouts and so on? How much investment does it need to be get into the streaming to start with?
I don't think you need much investment to get started. I mean, you know, older computers may not be able to to quite handle everything, but if you have a decent computer and you have a camera, either a webcam or if you're on a laptop that has a camera built in and a microphone or a headset, you can have a good enough stream to get started. So I haven't spent much money on streaming equipment myself. I mean, I'm using my phone, my personal cell phone, as a camera right now. I think that's a pretty good option that a lot of people would be able to use probably. I was lucky that I had a friend that attempted streaming and then decided it wasn't for him, and then he gave me his microphone. He's letting me borrow it indefinitely. So, I have a decent microphone that I got for free, so that was lucky. So it's really not much. People maybe get a little too, or people maybe overvalue, like, oh, my video has to look really sharp and my audio has to sound really crisp. Obviously those things are good, but if your stream is entertaining and you're a nice, friendly person that people enjoy watching, they're probably going to enjoy no matter what the quality is, as long as it's passing some minimum standards, but it's not really that hard to pass those minimum standards, I don't think.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. And now I am interested about talking a little bit about the key to success. I'm not sure if it is pronounced correctly, but what I mean is, what are the qualities that one must have to make the success over Twitch? Of course, you can define the success by your own standards. For example, you can compare yourself to others if you wish, or maybe it is the success for you to some like overcoming some kind of problems, some kind of challenges, or any other issues. And how could you define the success, and what would be the success on the Twitch? I mean, Twitch on the community, on chess community.
I mean, maybe the best way is to say that you shouldn't have grand expectations when you start streaming. Like if your thought is, I'm going to start streaming and I'm going to make that my primary source of income, and I'm going to make a lot of money streaming on Twitch, I mean, you could try, that's fine, but it's probably unlikely that that's going to be, your full-time gig. I mean,
stable income, that's what you mean, right?
Right. I mean, it really takes a lot to get to that level. I mean, I'm nowhere near that level. So I think managing expectations and having a healthy definition of what success is probably the best way. So I think if you're thinking about starting streaming, you should do it because you want to have fun with it and because you want to interact with other chess players in the community. And if that is your goal, then it's very likely that you'll achieve that. But if you're thinking about it primarily as a financial thing, you're probably going to make yourself miserable because it's not going to be glamorous, in that regard.
Okay.
So.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. And now let's make a little bit of, let's say, stuff related to promo, a little bit of challenging for you, because probably it was, by the way, it was not scripted, guys. Our friend didn't get the list for the discussion. It was the, let's say, deliberate decision. And now probably he may feel surprised. And if you feel surprised, it means it was not scripted. How would you convince other, let's say, viewers to watch Thinkerteacher's channel? In a moment, I'll just do to your channel. Therefore, it's now your part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it should be challenging.
Yeah. Well, what I said earlier about, if you're streaming, you'll get strong players to come in your chat and help you. I mean, like you helped me with that. Like, I mean, even in the early days, I remember you watching my channel and we've played games. You've helped me understand the games and we've discussed afterwards. And I mean, what I admire about you is I think you are one of those people that you just want to help people learn the game. And, you seem like a very welcoming person. I think anyone who comes to the channel is, you're going to be trying to help them in any way that you can. So, I mean, you're kind of, if you're watching Thinkerteacher's channel, you're kind of getting some free chess instruction, which is a pretty valuable thing at the end of the day. So that would be my pitch for Tom, for Thinkerteacher.
Thank you very much. And now my turn. This is the link to our friend CL Smith channel. The link into his channel is on the chat. And in the meantime, if you want to join our friend at his streaming, you will just get the insight into the game. Our friend is playing most often the time slower games, at the start of the streaming, he started with some kind of warm-up about the puzzles, and in the meantime, he's interactive with the viewers. His trademark, I'm not sure if he has changed it already, but probably not. His trademark is to getting into time travel. And this is one of the issue that he's working on, but probably it is not that simple because he's a little bit of perfectionist. What about that?
That sounds accurate. Yeah, the time trouble is definitely
A trademark,
a mainstay.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you very much. And now, to be a little bit more serious, let's get a little bit into the, let's say, strong players. If you just mentioned Grandmaster Ben Feigold, Grandmaster Thinkerteacher, let's tell us why you haven't beaten Thinkerteacher that much already, especially when we're playing the classical games by lichess. You haven't won any single games for the last 3 years against Thinkerteacher. How did it happen? Yes.
I didn't know that. I don't have a single win.
Yes, I extracted that.
Oh man, but I have wins over you.
No,
I do.
no, but not in a classical. You won on the rapid. You won on the rapid, but not classical. You drew one game over the classical, but you haven't won as yet. How did it happen?
Well, you're a strong player, Tom. What can I say?
Yeah, but jokes aside. Jokes aside.
Jokes aside.
How did it happen?
That's not a joke. I mean, you're a stronger player than me. It's tough to beat you. How long have you been playing chess, Tom? 25 years?
Yes, I have been playing 25 years.
Yes, I mean you got an 18-year head start on me.
Yeah,
I've been playing chess 7 years.
Yeah, you're
that'll be my excuse.
Yeah, you are.
No, you're a good player. I don't know any specific reason why I can't. It would be fun to play you over the board. I think I think if we played like an hour game, maybe I'd have I don't know, but that gives you a lot more time too. So
I guess if we'll be playing over the board, you probably will get the advantage in the opening. I would equalize in the middle game. At the late middle game, you'll start getting it on time trouble. Then we'll get into the end game. You will be making a blunder, and I will beat you overall. This will be the scenario.
Yeah, I mean I can't argue with that. That does sound like a lot of my games against stronger players.
That's why it is my, let's say, experience, and I'm just looking at your games as well. And from time to time, I'm just lurking when you are just having the collaborations with others or just playing the viewers and Simon and so on. And therefore, I really like it, and that's why I really recommend our friend's channel, because he's playing a lot of the slow time control games. Many times he's just organizing the Simons, and in the meantime he has a lot of, let's say, stronger players that are title players. And if you can tell us about how did you attract the, let's say, competent players, I mean strong players and some title players to your channel. Did you pay them or something?
No, I didn't pay anybody. I don't know how. I mean, like I said, it's really kind of a mystery to me how, if you stream chess, like sooner or later a strong player will come along and help you. I mean, the only thing I can say is, like I said, I've been a viewer and a moderator in Ben Feingold's channel for a long time. So that's really the only title player I can say like I've met Ben Feingold in person, and I mean, it might be strong. I would say we're friends. I don't know. I think he would call me a friend, but it's not like he's advising me on chess or anything. But other than that, I mean, it's really, like I said, it's just kind of been, I've been streaming for a long time now. I stream pretty frequently, and just sort of by natural chance, I guess, I've had some strong players come by and help me out. So.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And now let's get into, from streaming, a little bit into the content creating and content consuming, right? Because there are two kind of the spectrum. And first, I would like to ask you about content creation. For example, do you have the YouTube channel? And if you have the YouTube channel, what do you put into the YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel, and I have been guilty of not really using it as much as I should. So over the past month or so, I've been trying to do more with YouTube. And what I've been doing a lot lately has been sort of similar to the streams that I do, where I just go and I play a 15+10 game on lichess, and I'm talking about the game and I analyze the game afterwards. And I really enjoy doing those because there is one fewer distraction. I mean, I love live streaming and having Twitch chat talking about the game during the game, but it is time that is not being spent analyzing the game. So it is kind of nice for my YouTube videos where I can really focus more on the actual game. I think I also want to start doing more of my my OTB reviews, the reviews that I do of my tournament games, and doing those on YouTube. But it's really nice to do those on Twitch because I get strong players that help me. So I want to do those two things a lot on YouTube. And I've also toyed around with reviewing master games, and I've done a few games like from the Romantic era, like from Morphe games, basically.
Yeah.
And those videos seem to do pretty well compared to my other videos. So I might try to do more of those, although I'm not really qualified to to analyze those games. But you know,
why not? Why not? What's the reason behind it?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm qualified to analyze them, but I guess I'm not. I don't know that I can come up with some insight that, you know, other players can't come up with. And obviously I'm a much weaker player than the players involved. So
you probably want to mention that you cannot compete against Agard Mator, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't touch him. So
because he is very popular, especially about the recent, the past games about the Morphe era, about Furnik era, Tal era, right? Some like the series of the, let's say, recent masters and the past masters, and he was pretty much popular about this series as well. Therefore, probably if you'll be comparing to such a giant, right, the giant of Mator, giant of Lebrusman, probably it would not be that, let's say, great. And now,
probably not. I guess one thing I'll add about that is that doing those kind of videos, and really any of the videos I'm doing, like it's a little bit self-serving too. Like I think it does help me as a chess player to sort of, because I mean, it gives me a reason to analyze the games. I'm not really the kind of person that is going to sit down and study a chess game from 100 years ago deeply and focus on it. So if I'm doing it for a video, then, you know, that kind of gives me a little more motivation to do it. And the same with focusing on a 15+10 game that I'm playing. You know, I do it on stream and I'll do it for YouTube videos, but in my free time, I'm rarely playing that long of a game. And if I am, I'm watching Twitch or I have something else going on and it's not getting my full attention. So the YouTube channel does give me some more opportunities to like really focus and have some dedicated chess exercises, chess study.
Okay, got it. And now, if you are just mentioned a little bit about the YouTube as the let's say creator, let's reverse the point and let's try to talk about a little bit being consumer. Which creators or chess content creators and on YouTube you watch regularly, and especially which one you recommend to the players or to the viewers?
For me, I think Chess Network is the gold standard. I mean, I guess it sort of depends on what you're looking for, but I really, really, really like Chess Network's videos where he's analyzing master games and giving reviews. I mean, I think his approach to those is just really excellent. He does a good job of sort of explaining the position and why the moves are being played. But I mean, that said, there is really no shortage of great YouTube channels for chess. So it kind of just depends on what a specific viewer is looking for. I think the best bang for your buck in terms of educational value is Chess Network. But there's a lot of others that are great. I mean, Ron Bartholomew I really like. Ben Feingold I really like. Who else did I mention earlier?
What about Eric Rosen?
Yeah, Rosen is really good too. I mean, it's really, I think it's just try out a bunch of channels and find one that you enjoy. And, you know, they're all good. Really, like any popular YouTube channel out there is going to have a lot of value if you are actively trying to learn from it and if it clicks with you.
Yeah, I fully agree. And especially the recent years, I mean, the last 3 years from the, let's say, pandemic and this let's say, this event, it was very, very much, let's say, boom over the YouTube channels and the content creators, because there are more, way more, let's say, coaches, instructors, and the people who really knows about chess, but they were some like very much hidden. And nowadays they are much more visible, and either on the YouTube, either on the streaming at Twitch, and either about the podcast. And now let's get a little bit about the podcast, because the podcast is a new medium in the sense of Twitch, in the sense of chess, of course, because normally it's not that much new. And which of the, let's say, chess podcast you have listened so far? For example, you have been the guest about chess podcast by Ben Johnson. We'll be talking about in a second. But before that, if you can list some of the podcasts you have listened so far, the names or the topics.
To be honest, Perpetual Chess is the one that I listen to the most. And I've been listening to it ever since it first came out.
5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong. I think Ben Feingold was the first guest on the podcast. So when I heard about the podcast, I was already a Ben Feingold fan. So I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to the podcast and hear what Ben has to say. So, I mean, that one is really great. I think the only other chess podcast I've listened to is it Chess Feels? Is that it? I think that's what it's called.
I'm not sure because I probably do not know that. But what is the let's say content about this podcast? What do they regularly publish?
I've only listened to maybe 1 or 2 episodes, to be honest. But it's I think he's an NM. I think he's a US master and his wife, and they're both tournament players, and they sort of talk about more of the psychology that's going on in a game of chess, and they're not they're not delving into specific opening lines, or they're not giving you positions to look at. But like the episode I listened to was about time trouble, because that's very relevant for me, and it was sort of interesting their take on what is causing time trouble and how to more effectively use your time. And if I remember correctly, I think the wife is a practicing psychologist, or that might not be the right, like a therapist.
Yeah, probably I listened 1 or 2 podcasts of this genre. Probably I remember just 1 or 2. I was not that much, let's say, fascinated by that, but I remember that I just let's say check it out.
I think they do maybe like 1 episode a month. It's not as frequent as Perpetual Chess, and I think they have fewer than 20 episodes out right now.
Yeah,
so I think it's a little bit newer.
Yeah, they are no longer than something like 2 years, something like 1.5 year, probably something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, got it. Okay, thank you very much. And if you are just talking about the podcast, especially the podcast you just mentioned, Perpetual Chess podcast, once I just did something like a review about the podcasts, and I just share some of the, let's say, link to the podcast and some kind of let's say promotional stuff about the podcasters. And I'm especially interested, how does it feel like to be the guest at Perpetual Chess podcast? If you can just let's say elaborate a little bit more about the podcast itself that you just were the guest about, and the let's say the host Ben Johnson. How does it feel like? What was the preparation, and maybe some like a little bit of behind the scenes?
It was very intimidating because I was very surprised when he messaged me. He messaged me on Twitter and offered to have me on the podcast. And I mean, like I said, I've been listening to that podcast forever, but I didn't feel like I was particularly qualified to be on it. So it was very intimidating. And even though I am streaming regularly, it's a little different to there's more talking in a podcast, and I can't rely on like, oh, watch this chess game while I catch my breath, so it was very intimidating, but I did really enjoy it. I was a little like, after we did the interview, I was not very optimistic about it. I felt like it didn't go very well, but then when I listened to it when it came out, I thought it was good. I was happy with it. So I think I just like I was expecting the worst when I didn't really need to be. And Ben's a really nice guy. He was great to work with, and I have nothing but good things to say about that podcast too.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Because I have been listening to some of the podcasts that was probably you were, I guess, a year ago. Is this correct? Something like that?
Oh no, it was earlier this year. It was probably February? 4 or 5 months ago, I think.
February, March, something like that? February, March?
I think it was even more recent. I think March or April, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. Because I was not that much, let's say, in the time stamp. But anyway, I have listened into the podcast, and to be honest, I was very much enthusiastic about it. And when the podcast was aired, I just let's share the podcast with you and your channel as well, because I thought if you are the part of the community and you did a great job. Of course, you have been doing all of the time, but great job as some like external word, if I can say that. It is some like worth promoting, and therefore some of the viewers probably have listened due to, let's say, my a little bit of, let's say, support. But anyway, it was a
Well,
great,
thank you. I appreciate it.
great stuff. No problem. It was great stuff, and I am pretty happy that some of the let's say streamers, especially from the Twitch, are more and more guests about the let's say podcasters, especially the podcasters that have a little bit more let's say range. And it is very nice, because this way we are just expanding the community, right? And this is easier to get the sponsors, all of the stuff rolling.
Yeah, I was actually on that podcast. We didn't talk that much about Twitch, and I was kind of expecting and hoping to talk more about Twitch on that podcast. Because I kind of wanted to give some mention to, you know, some of the smaller and mid-sized streamers that exist on Twitch, just because I do think that there's a lot of really good value that people can get from people, you know, our size. But we didn't get to talk about it that much on Perpetual Chess. But hey, we already talked about it a good amount today, so at least I got my my feelings out there about that.
Yeah. I guess we all just make a little bit of status quo, right, about this stuff. Okay, and now if we are just talking about Twitch and media, I am pretty much interested about the media that are now a little bit more, let's say, how to put that, a little bit more, some like a fusion, right? Some like getting the media into one big spot. And what are your thoughts about, let's say, the fusion about the Magnus Group, about chesscom, and about the, I'm not sure if I express it correctly, but let's say about the comparison or competition via the lichess and any other sources, like podcasters, streamers, YouTubers. How do you see this, all of the changes over the recent years, not just right now, but over, let's say, recent 3 years? How do you see all these changes over the recent 3 years? And do you think it is going into the right direction, or maybe there are some dangers you would like to point out?
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's going in a bad direction. I mean, I guess it remains to be seen what will happen from the chess.com and chess24 Play Magnus merger. But, you know, I've always kind of viewed streaming as like, I don't want to be in competition with other streamers. I don't view streaming that way. And I like it when other streamers don't view it that way. So, you know, I guess that's just my personal philosophy, that I don't want it to be a competition for people to try to make the most money or anything like that. I just want to put the best chess content out there that I can. And I hope that everybody can do that. And I mean, I think that aligns with lichess's philosophy. Like, you know, chess.com probably views lichess as a competitor, because chess.com is for profit, and you know, the bigger lichess is, the worse that is for chess.com. But lichess, I don't think views chess.com in that way. I agree. I think they feel about it the way I feel about it. They're like, well, they want to put the best chess website that they can out there. They want the best chess tools available for the most people that can happen, and they're not worried about any sort of profit motive. So I guess the only thing I would say is that I hope that more people, you know, both content creators and you know, viewers and chess enthusiasts will sort of follow those principles more than the for-profit approach. But you know, that's just my philosophy. So, you know, I can't begrudge anyone for having a different philosophy, but I hope that the not-for-profit guys kind of win out.
Yeah, I guess we can just make a let's say golden spot or sweet spot, if you can say that, about, let's say, the approach to making chess for profit and making chess for benefits, not just monetary, right? Because, for example, if because I'm not against, let's say, earning money based on, let's say, sharing the values based on chess, but rather not to make the chess degradation, right? For example, if somebody would make something like a very, very stupid way, completely not related to chess, but with the chess content, let's say chessboard next to him, right, or next to her, it would be some like degrading chess, right? But if it is the content that is worth watching, worth participating, worth selling as the marketing side, then if the streamer, no matter it is the male or woman, if he or she is just providing a great value and he wants to, let's say, earn for a living this way, I am pretty much, let's say, with this. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. it's kind of hard for me to say this and not sound self-serving, but I think part of that comes down to like if you are someone who's watching chess on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever, and there's someone that you find that you get a lot of value from, and if you have the financial means to do so, then I think you should support that person in whatever way you think is appropriate. And I mean, again, because I'm on Twitch and I'm on YouTube, that sounds like it could be self-serving, but I mean that like you should do that for whoever. It doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be Tom, but I mean, hey, support Tom. If Tom's giving you a lot of value and you can afford to do so, you're in a good place financially, then I think Tom is deserving of your support. And I mean that for every chess person that there is out there. So I think if viewers are supportive like that, in aggregate, then the not-for-profit sort of way of thinking will win out and be viable, and we won't have this landscape where everything is paywalled, and you have to pay to do the tactics, and you have to pay to get the good video lectures and that kind of thing. So I admire the people who are fighting for having the content out there, even if there's not immediate financial benefit, or kind of trusting that, if it helps people out, that they will basically be generous and support us after the fact.
Yeah, I agree with this, even if sometimes it's a little bit difficult, because if some people start out with the thought of, I am going to stream on chess, after 3 months I'm just living my actual work, right? So I'm like going, let's say, getting all of the money by Twitch, some like double the income that I already have, probably it's completely unrealistic. But if you're, for example, the figure like, let's say, Eric Rosen, or some like Daniel Naroditsky, or Levi Rosman, right? All of these guys, they are trying to put, at least from my perspective, they are trying to put the monetary stuff and the value, some like on the, let's say, balanced way. And the question about our friend Chris, because I told him that I am going to ask the question in a moment, he's asking to you, do you think that viewers are interested in best chance content, or in most sketchy content? What's your, let's say, point about it?
I mean, I guess it depends on the viewer, right? There's probably, I mean, on Twitch especially, there's probably a lot more people who are kind of just looking for the most exciting thing. And on YouTube, there's probably more people that are looking for like actual instructive content and the best possible content. But I mean, that doesn't mean that there's not room for both on either platform. So I mean, I guess like if I were going to go, this kind of goes back to the previous question about advice I would give for people starting out streaming. Like, don't feel like you have to model what your content is based off of what your predecessors have done. And I mean, I think you're a good example of this. Like, you're like, even this right here is not very typical chess content for Twitch. Like, there's not that many like interviews that are happening on chess Twitch. So there are a lot of streams that are sort of like they're following the chess bra model, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there is just
a lot of
an
blitz,
example.
It's a lot of bullet, it's a lot of EDM music, and that's fine, but don't feel like you have to do that, or don't feel like you have to be the next Eric Rosen or the next Ben Feingold, like whoever it is. Like, you can create whatever kind of content you want, and you will find some audience. You may not necessarily find the biggest audience by doing things a different way, but that doesn't mean you can't find your own little niche. And I think that's somewhat what I've done with my channel, because like you said, I do play a lot of slower chess, which is sort of uncommon on Twitch.
These days, uncommon, absolutely.
Yeah, and that is, and maybe I should have mentioned that earlier, is something that's given me a more consistent viewership. It's because if there are people on Twitch who are interested in that kind of thing, I'm one of the few options that is consistently there for them. Even if I'm not the strongest player, maybe I'm not their favorite person, like maybe I'm not their favorite personality that's streaming, but if they like slower chess with more explanations given, then I'm, that's sort of my niche. So my ceiling, I may not ever get 500 viewers, probably not ever get that many viewers consistently watching, but I found a little niche. I have the viewers that I have, and I can make a little money off of it, and that's great. So
Yeah, I fully agree. And I would like to make a little bit of promo about your channel. I just put the link, guys, into the channel. Whoever you wants to support our friend CL Smith, you are just having the link. And in the meantime, as our friend mentioned, he is doing most of the time the longer time to control games. He's commenting the games very, very well, at least from my point of view. Very, let's say, educational, very informative, and interactive with the chat, because it's very important, because some streamers may sometimes a little bit ignore of the chat due to either being too much intense chat, let's say, at the moment of the game or the analysis, or sometimes it is something like, oh, it was not that much important. And our friend is trying to let's say, address all of the questions, sometimes even a little bit of trolling, and it is pretty much funny because sometimes I try to make it a little bit of trolling, but in a positive way, and he always catches that, It's very difficult to cut you off the guard.
Right. I try to do my best there.
Yeah, you're doing great job there.
I appreciate the trolls even,
Yeah, yeah, but you're dealing with this perfectly, and you're just something like, because most often the time, whenever I have the chance and there are no, let's say, other streamers that are urgent without the raid, I'll try to, let's say, ask the streamers to raid to you, especially Johnny D, right? Because
and I appreciate that so much too.
yeah, but I rather want to say a little bit different. That I want to, let's say, send let's say raiders to you from Johnny D, and it is something like that you're just doing some like deep in the thought, and you're just having the sound that you know this is the raid, right? And it's something like that. You're super focused. Oh, there was the raid. Thank you very much, and you're just focused again.
Yeah, I feel bad when I have to do that, because sometimes I feel like I'm not as appreciative as I should be, but I mean, sometimes the game's really tense.
Yeah,
I have to come back and do all that stuff after the game has been, sort of settled.
And sometimes it's even funnier because you're the legitimate guy, and in the meantime, it is something like the feeling that you want to make a little bit more attention, but you're in deep time trouble, right? And it is something like a little bit funny. Guys, I'll just appreciate that very much, but I am just focused. I try not to lose some time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yes, it sounds really, really funny, and that's why I'm super happy that I sometimes can ask some of the streamers to rate to you, because it's absolutely amazing. And of course, in the meantime, you have a very educational channel, very informative, and you are addressing the viewers. That I am very, very happy, and I really appreciate your approach. And now we're just talking a little bit about lichess, and if we just make a little bit of promo about the lichess as well, probably this could be pretty much, let's say, important. How would you define lichess as the phenomena? Because probably, I'm not sure how much you analyzed all of the resources, but probably at least so far, there has no such a, let's say, amazing resources as lichess in all of the options so far, and they are basing on the model that is, let's say, not a paywall one, right? If you just took it a little bit from your, let's say, perspective of, let's say, the guy that knows about economics, right? About the market, all of this stuff. How do you perceive it? How could they be able to do so? And what are the benefits for us, for the community?
Well, I mean, I think even setting aside all the philosophical reasons that I like lichess for, non-profit reasons, I mean, I legitimately think it's the best place to play chess online. I think that the site is very simple, and it works very smoothly, and it works very consistently. And I mean, again, I think chess.com does a lot of good things, but I don't find their site particularly easy to use. The interface is not as smooth and as fluid as lichess, and the features are, for a while, the features were much worse. I think now they are not, I think they're close, but I still like lichess's features more, especially like lichess has the study feature, which is really nice that chess.com doesn't have. So, I mean, even just taking aside all the economics, I think lichess is just, if all you're thinking about is selfishly where's the best place that I can play chess, I think lichess is the answer. But yeah, I mean, for all the reasons I said before, that I think that their philosophy is we want to make chess as accessible as it can be for as many people as we can. I mean, how, if you like chess, how can you not support something like that? Like that's what I think everyone in the chess community should want. And I think for the most part, that's what everyone in the chess community does want. I think everybody wants everybody to be able to learn and improve, and they want to share their ideas. And lichess is just the best place for that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I fully agree, and I fully, let's say, recommend lichess, because lichess is the, let's say, most amazing thing that, let's say, has been given to the community. And what I am super impressed, it is some like a phenomena. I always just stress out this word phenomena, that they are super transparent about all of the expenses, all of the actions, all of the let's say decisions, all of the features, all of the stuff, and they are trying to address such a huge, let's say, community with their, let's say, approach and their philosophy, as I just mentioned. They are trying to do the best for the community, and if
Yep.
you feel that you would like to support the community, the support lichess especially, you can just make some kind of donation. But what is the most impressive, and it is something like fantastic, I have never seen such a model before, that you have been given the same, absolutely the same, let's say, account of the premium, even if you're paying or not, right? So I'm like,
Right.
let's say, not a difference, just the difference in your, let's say, approach. If you just like it and if you just use it consistently, it would be a good idea, consider the donation. What about that?
Yeah, I agree. And I was also just thinking of, if we go back to what we were talking about earlier about
Mhm.
if you're thinking about starting off streaming chess, lichess is by far the most supportive site for new streamers. There is, you have to fill out like a small application to be listed as a streamer on lichess, but there are no there's no metrics that you have to hit for lichess to add you as a streamer. Basically, all you have to do is say, this is my account, I want to start streaming, and then I mean, I think it's like within a day you'll be approved and you'll be good to go, as long as you're not doing anything really bad on stream.
Yeah, of course.
If you're not expressing racist or any kind of views like
Term
that,
of service, right? Terms of service.
right, as long as you're not violating terms of service, like, you're going to be allowed to stream on lichess.
Yeah.
And there's not much preference that is given to any one streamer over the other. The only preference that really exists is about the front page listing, which I mentioned. So I was lucky to be added to that, and aside from that, like, if you're streaming on lichess and you want to play in the like, let's say you're playing in the hourly blitz arena or whatever that's happening every hour, you will be listed on the arena page as so and so is streaming, and it might be Eric Rosen is streaming, and then your stream is right there below it. So I mean, I don't know how many views that's going to get you, but hey, I mean, lichess is there to help you with that, and their philosophy is they want to help as many chess streamers become partnered on Twitch as they can. So that's another big benefit of lichess that was really helpful for me too.
Yeah, helping to grow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and one requirement, because probably you haven't mentioned this, right? One requirement about being listed at the lichess streamers is just putting the lichess.org in the title, right? It's something like a requirement, because this way everybody knows that you are streaming on lichess, and this is something like a super small, if I can say that, price for being delisted and being let's say, promoted over the lichess website. But therefore, I think that it's a great, let's say, win-win situation, because this way lichess support the streamers, brings the, let's say, new players or new viewers to the community. The players and viewers just support the system in general, right? And the more, let's say, players and viewers into the system, the easier to attract sponsors. And in the meantime, if the pool is pretty big one, more people probably will try to support lichess financially, right? Because this way it will be working way more, let's say, efficient. Okay, thank you very much. We are just having more and more, let's say, stuff discussed. I'm super happy about it because it is going very smooth. As Maurice Ashley just mentioned about, it was a very smooth related to Magnus Carlsen. Remember this? Do you remember?
I don't think I saw that one, but
maybe I'll just mention this because it was absolutely, let's say, ridiculous, and it is one of the meme that Maurice Ashley may be a little bit of, let's say, ashamed of. Of course, depending on perspective, but it was at least a meme. Magnus Carlsen once played the game that was something like very difficult to him, and it was something like the game that he didn't convert the advantage in a most efficient way. And Maurice Ashley asked him about that, but he probably forgot to turn off the empathy button. And he says something like that. Magnus, I just saw that you are just struggling with this game, and this game was not that much, let's say, smooth that you can convert the advantage. How did it happen? What did you do? And Magnus was that much pissed off because he just really struggled about this game. Of course, you cannot win each single game effortlessly, right? And it was some like a little bit of, let's say, trigger for Magnus. Magnus was
like that.
completely pissed off, and he was that just trying to, let's say, shots fired, right? Some like shoot back, and he's something like that. Yeah, next time I'll try to win the game more, let's say, without something like the trouble, right? Less without this, let's say, difficulties. And it was something like that. Before the next question Maurice just asked, Magnus just left the studio.
Nice. I thought you were going to say he made a joke about Maurice Ashley's smooth head. I thought
no. It was not this way, but it could be this way.
Yeah.
It could have been, yes. And that's why being smooth about Maurice Ashley is most often related to the Magnus Carlsen situation. Okay, let's get next, let's say, stuff, because we were talking about, let's say, lichess. Now let's get back a little bit about the databases, because probably this is one of the, let's say, features that is very important for many of the players. And probably if you are using lichess, most of the time you are just using the databases, right? And if you just, let's say, mentioned about this database, how do you use? Do you think it is, let's say, important? Do you think it is reliable and it is something like beneficial? What do you think about the database?
I think the opening database in lichess is fantastic because, I mean, I said earlier, I'm not the kind of person that likes to just sit and focus on chess study without other things going on. So I think the database helps me learn openings a little bit more, and it's a slow process because I'm not really doing it in the best way, but it's nice after a game to just open the master database and see where you deviated and where things sort of
go wrong,
you know, what you're doing differently than the masters are doing. So I really like it in that aspect, and I especially like to look at, like, you know, sometimes you'll get positions where, like, the compute, like, let's say you're playing white and the computer says that it's minus 0.5, so black is half a pawn better.
Yeah.
But then you look at the master database and you see that white's scoring 40% and there's 40% draws and black scoring 20%. So sometimes the master database can give you more of the truth of the position than the engine can.
Yeah.
So that is great. But then on top of that, you have just the lichess database, which sort of shows you maybe an even more practical approach, like, oh, if I play this line in this opening, here's what the average player is more likely to play, how they're going to continue.
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially if you're playing like a sideline, your opponents probably aren't prepped to the teeth against it. So you can kind of get an idea of how effective that's going to be, or what people are going to come up with on the fly if they don't know the position. And then the third part of the database is if you are someone who plays over the board, or if you were someone who plays the same opponents online over and over, you can see what they're playing on lichess. So occasionally I'll have opportunities where I'm playing someone over the board and I know my opponent ahead of time and I know their lichess account, so I can go and try to prep for them and see what they like to play against certain lines on lichess. Unfortunately, that cuts both ways. And I'm a little bit more public than most of my opponents, so, you know, anyone who is playing me more than once probably knows that I stream. They probably know that they probably know what my lichess account is, and they can prep for me. So I mean, that's why a lot of title players have anonymous accounts.
Yeah.
And probably I should do that, but as of right now, I don't really.
But I guess...
So anyway, all that to say, the database is a really good tool for openings if you don't want to sit down and study a chessable course for hours on end. And again, it's just another great feature that lichess gives you for free.
Yeah, absolutely. I am fully with that. And in the meantime, because I want to make this, let's say, discussion and the interview a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of surprising as well. Therefore, the trivia or the quiz for you. Do you know how many puzzles are there publicly available as the, let's say, the file to download that lichess has already converted or created? Do you know?
How many? You said puzzles, right?
Yeah, puzzles. Puzzles are like tactics.
Yeah, I think it's in the millions. I'm gonna guess 6 million.
No, it's a little bit less. 2,900,000, close to 3 million.
3 million.
Yeah,
okay.
close to 3 million.
Okay.
And another question, because this way probably you'll get more chances to, let's say, be a little bit closer. Do you
Yeah.
know what is the average? I mean, the average number of the games that have been played each month, all of the games of chess, each month
Ooh.
each month on lichess for the last 6 months. Average, in
Okay.
average.
Last 6 months, average number of games. That's really tough. I'm gonna guess maybe 10 million. I don't know.
Sorry, how many?
10 million.
You're just a little bit, let's say, underestimating lichess capabilities. 100 million, close to 100 million.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Most often it's some like 85 to 90 because
Wow.
depends on the, let's say, situation over the globe, because of course there are some kind of drastic situations like the war and so on. But it is something like 80 to 85 85 average. But there was the cases probably 3 to 4 times, because I was just following recently, let's say, the statistics, that the number of games crossed 100 million games a month. Therefore, it's pretty impressive. And what
That is impressive.
Yes, and what I want to say, that lichess just give that on the Creative Commons license, right? This stuff that they can, let's say, publish for free. And what is very impressive, because probably this is going to be, let's say, very much underestimated, that all of the researchers, right, some like statisticians, the scientists, and all of the guys that want to use these databases, they have the access and they can make all of the studies, right? For example, time management, for example, time pressure, for example, the decisions, let's say, average score about the, let's say, opening and all of the stuff. And having such a, let's say, huge data, you can have a very much reliable let's say, a reliable outcome, right? And now let's get back a little bit into your occupation, because as far as I listened to the podcast, you're an accountant by profession. Is that correct?
I was an accountant. I'm not a practicing accountant currently, but I that's what I studied in school, and I was an accountant for a little over 4 years. But I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, but
I moved away from office life.
Yeah, got it. Because I remember one day that you just let's say get this topic into the stream, and you just mentioned why you didn't get this track. But what I mean is rather a little bit let's say different idea. How does your let's say education in a global sense, how much your education help you with the chess analysis, help you with decision making, especially onto the chessboard? If you can, of course, make some kind of, let's say, assessment or estimations.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like in terms of accounting specific education, I don't know that it really helped that much. I mean, I was lucky in high school. I went to a pretty good high school. So, you know, I think just the general education that I received, I mean, I went to good schools my whole education career, but career, I guess. But so I don't think it was anything specific, but I think just having a good general education helped. I mean, I was always sort of proficient at math. I was naturally gifted at math. And I think being gifted at logic sort of was a consequence or sort of related to that, I guess. So I think just having good schooling in you know, elementary through high school probably helped hone that ability, and that definitely helps a lot for chess. But I can't say that accounting specifically really has much relevance for chess. I don't think.
Of course. It is some like the reflection over your approach, over your skills that was a little bit, let's say, directed. But what I mean, most of the time, because I try to, let's say, monitor and observe all of the streamers, all of the, let's say, popular guys who are just, let's say, are title players, or just they are growing quickly. And most of the time, they mention the stuff, either logic, either mathematics, either informational technology, either the music, right? Because all of this is some like looking for the truth or looking for the harmony, right? In a global sense.
Yeah.
And therefore, probably I was expecting that you must have been pretty good at mathematics, no matter what kind of, but you have some like a predisposition, right, for this. And it was some like, you just revealed it. Therefore, I'm pretty happy about it. And
You
what
nailed
I,
it.
yeah, I nailed it. And what I would like to ask a little bit more is if it is true that you haven't read the book, any single paper book up to the level of 2000. Is that correct, or it is a little bit of underestimation?
That is mostly correct. So I have one chess book in my possession, which one of my viewers actually bought for me.
Oh,
And that is Mayhem in the Mora
by Mark
by
Esserman.
Mark Esserman.
Uh-huh.
I don't really. It's not really my style to play such an aggressive opening, but I sort of picked it up because I kept getting crushed in the Mora, and B, I thought that learning something that's not really my style might be helpful to help me grow as a chess player. Now that said, I have not really read much of the book. I've read sort of the introductory chapters, and I've looked at a few of the lines, but I haven't read the book.
Okay.
And aside from that's there was one time that I checked out Silman's endgame course. It was at the local library, and I checked it out.
Yeah.
And I did a few chapters, and I returned it. So I have not read any book cover to cover by any means. And I've done a few chessable courses, but again, there's none that I've gone like all the way through.
It was
So
not
it's
from
not
from the start to finish, right?
right. Yeah. So I mean, if you were going to put a percentage on where my chess learning came from, it would be like 99% Twitch and YouTube,
Wow.
and like 1% books or courses.
Excellent, because I wanted to ask about you. How have you, let's say, gotten that far without reading any single book? Because from my perspective, because of course we are a little bit different ages at the sense of, let's say, experience about chess and being, let's say, in the community. When I started playing chess, without, I didn't have the access either to internet and not mentioned any single chess servers, right? I was just playing. I'm not sure if you remember the program Chess Master, because recently Amakator just published the, let's say, the games Chess Master against Stockfish, and it was fascinating. And back then, I had the access to the Chess Master. I was having the computer Amiga. Not sure if you remember. It was the Commodore, let's say, brand. It was Amiga, and it was on the discs, some like a plastic disc that you put into the, let's say, into the box, right? And it was the Chess Master. And back then, it was when I was playing on the Amiga, it was Chess Master 2100, and I had the Amiga. It was not a PC. It was a little bit different, let's say, brand. And back then, the Chess Master rating was about 2300, right? On the, let's say, stronger machine, it was about 2300. But from time to time, you can just set up the levels. And after that, when the Chess Master was, let's say, published over the PC, it was some like the characteristics. Nowadays, it is called bots, right? The bots on the chesscom, all of the personalities. And back then, it was some like, let's say, 30, let's say, persons or personifications about the specific, let's say, guys. The guy, for example, wants to crazy attacks. This guy is some like a calculator. This guy wants to, let's say, play out the endgames. This guy doesn't allow you to exchange anything. And back then, 20 years ago, having such a, I would call it, luxury is something like unbelievable. Because back then, there was not such a sophisticated, let's say, databases, engines, programs, and so on, right?
Right. Yeah, I have never heard of that program before, but
and
it does sound like good software, though.
Yeah, and that's why I just can recommend Agadmator recent videos, because it is just 3 videos related to, let's say, matching Stockfish against Chessmaster. And believe me, I don't want to spoil anything. The games are fantastic. Everything is in the video. I don't want to spoil anything, because you will be having a really much pleasure.
Yeah, I'll have to check those out.
Okay, excellent. And now let's go into the stuff that I already mentioned. I mean the engines, because we were talking about lichess, about databases, and now let's get into the engines, especially free engines, or the let's say it let's say publicly, one of the strongest chess engines ever, and publicly available for free for anybody, Stockfish. What do you think about the engine? Working with engines? Do you use engines? Do you use engines during the game? Maybe after the game?
Well, not during the game.
I wanted to catch you.
I do use them after the game. I mean, you know, engines are great. You know, I think that you know, some people probably over rely on them, and I'm far from the first person to say this, but you know, what the engine says is not always the full picture, because chess is a game played between humans. So if the position's complicated, then the engine evaluation might not matter so much. But I mean, engines are great, and I think the way they really should be used is as a way to help you quickly identify areas that you could improve on a game. So, I mean, on my stream, you know, if I play a long game, I'm always going to the analysis afterwards, and I'm always telling it to run the analysis over the whole game, and I'm looking on the graph for those points where the eval really shifted a lot. And I mean, lichess just has that button that says learn from your mistakes. It takes you right there, and then you try to figure out what you missed in that position. So engines are great for that kind of thing, but you know, you don't have to get bogged down if it's an equal position or equal-ish, and you make a move that loses 0.3 or 0.5 points of eval or whatever. You don't necessarily have to freak out about that. I mean, sometimes that might be bad if the position's now completely equal. That might be bad, but the engine alone is not really going to give you the full picture there. You kind of have to understand the more practical elements in the position, and that's not always easy to do by any means. But overall, engines are great. Stockfish is great that it's publicly available, and lichess seems to always have the most up-to-date version of Stockfish available. So yeah, it's more accessible than it's ever been, I suppose. And I mean, I use it for all my OTB games too, and I create a study, I drop in the PGN for all of my OTB games, and have the engine help me out. I put in the variations that happened in the game, I put in the variations that I was thinking about, if I can remember those, and try to see what was wrong with my analysis. And you know, I mean, they're invaluable. I think there's no way that I could have. I would be a much worse chess player if not for engines, just because they speed up your ability to learn so much. You know?
Yeah, I fully agree. Thank you very much. And it is very important because nowadays we have very powerful engines, and the engines that are available for everybody, right? There is no restriction, no paywall, and so on. Back then, as I just mentioned, because I'm a chess dinosaur, back then, for example, 20 years ago, there was literally 5 to 6 engines. Of course, there was the let's say bunch of engines, but these engines were super weak related to the commercial one. For example, the commercial one engines were some like 2600, and the engines that were free of charge were some like 2100. There was a huge gap between these, let's say, commercial and non-commercial one. And what I mean that I want to give you a little bit more chance about Chessmaster and about Stockfish, because I know that you love challenges. I know because you just mentioned a lot of the times that you love challenges. What is the difference, just the difference, between the strongest version of Stockfish and strongest version of Chessmaster? By the way, Chessmaster is no longer, let's say, no longer developed, because it has been, let's say, terminated probably in 2011 or something like that, 10 years ago, let's say. And nowadays, Stockfish on the best machine, I'm sorry, like most like consistent result is 3700. And what is the difference, the biggest difference between these two? And the difference was, let's say, explained by Matur. What do you think? What is the difference between the strongest Chessmaster and nowadays the recent one, strongest Stockfish? The difference in strength, in elo.
So you're not asking me for like a numerical, like
numerical.
Oh,
I mean numerical.
Okay, so the difference in elo.
I just gave you the let's say hint that 3700 is the Stockfish. What would be the Chessmaster?
Well, I earlier you were saying 22 to 2300, but I don't know if that was the strongest. So I'll say that it got up to 2500 strength. I'll say 1200 points.
Very close. 27.
27. Okay, that's pretty good.
It's very strong. Very strong.
Pretty strong.
Notice 10 years ago, Chessmaster, maybe a little bit more, let's say 13 years ago, Chessmaster 27 years ago was very, very strong. Because of course there was some like a very, very much explosion over the last 6 or 7 years about all of the engines, commercial and most of it non-commercial. But being 2700, and I don't want to spoil that you will see what was the let's say fight against Stockfish and Chessmaster. You'll see what is the difference and how much we humans may be, let's say, below even Chessmaster, right? That's why I do not spoil anymore.
Okay.
Okay, now I have the question from the chat. Nicholas, our friend from Greece, want to know about what was your first chess engine that you played against? It could
I
be
mean,
the
I'm
commercial
sure-
or not commercial. Mhm.
I'm sure it was just Stockfish. I'm sure it was Stockfish.
Do you remember
on
what was the
lichess.
version? The version Stockfish, 13, 14?
No, I mean,
Or maybe when you played the first time against the engine, maybe
Yeah.
the year. Hmm.
the earliest Stockfish, like I remember when Stockfish 8 came out.
Uh-huh.
That's the earliest version that I remember, like seeing the news, like, oh, Stockfish 8 just came out.
Mm-hmm.
So probably the first version of Stockfish that I played was Stockfish 7.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
That would be my guess, and I'm assuming that was around 2016.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't play against engines that much. They're probably better to play against now than they were, but the way that weak engines play is very different from the way that weak humans play.
Uh-huh.
But I think that some strides have been made there, as it relates to like neural nets. So I think computer programs have gotten better at emulating how a weaker human would play.
Mm-hmm.
But, like against Stockfish 7, if I played on it turned down, back then, it plays 4 perfect moves and then 1 just horrendous blunder that's so obvious and so easy to punish.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what difficulty you set it to. So, that's not really how humans play. Like humans have a coherent plan, even if the plan is flawed. But engines that were programmed to be weak tended to not play that way.
Mm-hmm.
They would it was programmed in like you've got to make a blunder every so often to give the human a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back then when the engines was not that great, optimized, because it was, as you just mentioned, some like a few moves, a very good one, and then some like a spike. But of course,
Right.
the humans, depending on the time control, the position, all of the factors, is some like different, right? It's not that easy to emulate the human playing, even if
No,
on the
it's not.
lower level, right? Because
Right.
sometimes you may not be able to predict that very easily, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And now let's get into another stuff that probably you are pretty much popular with as well, because many times on the stream you make some kind of simul. Simul is the shortcut for simultaneous exhibition. What do you think about it? Do you like it? Do your viewers like it? And how the simul takes place? If you can explain a little bit to our viewers.
Yeah, I mean, my viewers seem to really like it. I do enjoy it. I probably enjoy it less than I used to, just because it is very grueling for me, just because I'm not that strong of a chess player.
Uh-huh.
So playing 8 people at once is difficult, and often if I'm playing 8 people in a simul, at least 2 or 3 of them are stronger than me. So
sometimes I pop up as well.
Right, yeah. Sometimes you pop up and it's like, okay, well, I can't beat Tom, 1v1. So how am I going to beat him when I have 7 other games going on?
Uh-huh.
So it's difficult, and sometimes that deters me from being excited about doing the simuls. But I do think that they're a good training tool
Mm-hmm.
for me, because it does kind of force me to really focus and quickly assess what's important in the position and what's not.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's good training. I think probably most people could benefit from doing it, at least in some limited capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy. It probably would be hard for most people to do it, because you have to find people that are willing to play against you. So I'm lucky that I'm a streamer and that I can find people that will play against me. So yeah, it's very challenging, but it's fun. It's rewarding. But yeah. And
Okay.
lichess makes it easy, as with everything.
Yeah, yeah.
anyone can create a simul in lichess. It's just getting people to join it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to ask about the simul, especially because it is a very, let's say, or maybe not very, but more and more popular, let's say, version of showing how chess can be played. I'm especially interested how much you think, or maybe you feel, how much your level of play go down if you are playing against, let's say, 8 or 10 players, and what was the biggest number of players that participated in your simul, if you remember, of course.
I think maybe once I played with like 12,
Mhm,
maybe
mhm.
it somewhere between 10 and 12 is the highest number I've played.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how much my strength decreases,
Uh-huh.
probably 200 to 300 points, maybe more. I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, you get more time when you're playing a simul. At least the way I set it up, I give
Mhm.
myself extra time.
Yeah.
But what you don't get is, when you're playing an over the board game or a long time control game anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
when it's your opponent's turn, you have a moment I mean, often a long moment to be sort of thinking about what is going to happen, what could happen, what's important in the position. And when you're giving a simul, that's the time that gets cut, is the time where you can think on your opponent's clock. So it's very difficult, because then when it's your turn, you're more analyzing specific lines. You have to figure out what the best move is as quickly as possible. So I think that's what makes it very difficult. And also what makes just playing chess while streaming difficult too, because a lot of times when it's not your turn, you're talking to chat, or you're focused on other stuff.
Okay, got it. And do you think it's a good idea to, let's say, be able one of the participants, if, for example, someone is weaker than you, let's say 150 up to 200 points, to participate in the simul, to have a realistic chance to beat you? Do you think it's a good idea?
Absolutely, yeah. I do think that that's a good resource. And to shout out another streamer, Art Vega does this all the time, where he's giving simuls, and I've enjoyed playing against Art in simuls. And when I was first learning like the King's Indian defense, it was actually a really good resource for me to be able to play against Art in simuls, because he plays the King's Indian, he knows a lot about it, and I was able to learn a lot just from playing against Art in his simuls. So I do think that if you're a newer player, you know, you probably don't get a ton of opportunities to play long games against stronger players, and a simul is a really good setting to do that. And I mean, it's not just me, it's other streamers do it too. I mean, I played against Pintala Hari Krishna in a simul on lichess once. And I mean, like, when am I going to play a 30-minute game against Hari Krishna? So
you have no chance,
that's
right?
just such a good opportunity. You know, if you can find those opportunities, then, you know, I think it's very good opportunity to learn.
Okay, thank you very much. And now let's get into a little bit of catchy part, if I can say that, because probably this may be a little bit challenging. And in the meantime, I'll try to, let's say, catch you off the guard. What do you think about the adoption?
About the adoption?
Yeah.
Just if you can win 10 games in a row?
Yeah.
It's an interesting challenge.
And have you been adopted, or have you adopted somebody?
I'm sure that I know I've been adopted. I mean, I think you're probably going to tell me that you've adopted me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Therefore, you can call me daddy. Okay.
Right. Okay. I'll try to remember. Yeah.
And have you adopted anybody? If you're just playing, let's say, the match, or let's say, playing individual games, have you adopted anybody? Especially if you remember.
I definitely have. I can't remember who. Like, I mean, I have. You know, I teach kids, so there's some kids that I've played many games that you know, I beat pretty much every time. So I don't know who outside of that I've adopted, but I'm sure that there are people out there that I have. Maybe I need to research that. Someone should make a like a website that figures that out for you.
It is Rose and Score. Rose and Score. At Rose and Score,
they have that on
yes,
Rose and Score?
yes, they have it. Yes, they have it. Because
I didn't know that.
I check it out, and it looks like that I have already probably 37 kids.
Oh wow, that's quite a lot.
Big family, yes, big family.
Do you have the URL for that?
Yes, it is Rose and Score. If you put Rose and Score, it would be some like popping up, and then if you're just putting the nickname, and after, of course, some of the processing data, because it's a lot of data, and it pops up the adoption, and even it is a double adoption. Double adoption is some like winning 20 games in a row, right?
Yeah.
And
so I've used Rose and Score before, but the last time I looked at it, it did not have adoptions.
Yeah, it is adoption. It is on the right bottom corner, and I was pretty much happy because I just figured out, because I knew that I adopted, let's say, some kids, if I can say that, but I didn't remember all of the names. And some of the viewers recently asked me, Thinkerteacher, how many kids do you have? And right. I said, sorry, I do not, let's say, make the cataloging of this, right? Some like the list, how many and where and when. Therefore, it was a little bit funny, and I just figured out it is, let's say, the data that is available on the Rose and Score.
Yeah. Okay, so I have it running now. As you said, it takes a while, so it's about 20% done.
Okay, and if
I'll update you later.
yeah. After a while, we'll just come back into that, and you'll let us know. Excellent. And we're talking about, let's say, playing online, playing against viewers, playing against simuls. Now let's get a little bit more, because we just started about chess over the board. how much does chess online is different than chess over the board? What would you, let's say, list about the differences, especially the ones that you didn't expect? Because as far as I remember, you probably mentioned that you played the first tournament over the board some like 3 years ago, right?
No, more like 1 year ago.
1 year ago? Oh, even
1
better.
year ago, about a little over a year ago.
Okay,
yeah.
and if you can just share some of the experience, some of the differences between chess online and chess over the board.
It's very different. It was probably more different than I expected. And I mean, the big difference, I guess, is just that generally the time control is much longer. So, you know, it just changes the nature of the game because your opponents are somewhat less likely to make catastrophic blunders. You know, and the games tend to be more positional and more about long-term strategy than about tactics, which you see a lot in faster online games. So that's one big difference. And one thing I like to mention when people ask me about the differences is that if you go to an OTB tournament, what that involves is you paid money to join whatever federation. So like you paid an annual membership for the US Chess Federation or FIDE or whatever it is. Then you paid money to enter the tournament.
Yeah, the fee, right?
You, like, depending on how big the tournament is, maybe you traveled, maybe you paid to
traveling
drive,
costs. Yeah,
drive and get a hotel if it's a multi-day tournament. So you have a lot of sunk costs in this tournament, and you devoted spending your entire weekend or maybe longer playing the games in this tournament, and you did that, and all of your opponents did that. So if you are playing someone and you find yourself in a good position, say you're up a pawn, you have a really nice position, you know, even outside of being ahead of pawn, your opponents are going to be much more tenacious with how they try to fight back than your online opponents. So if that same situation happens online, a lot of players will sort of just fold. I mean, they're not going to find the trickiest defense.
Yeah.
They might try some sort of all-out attack and just hope that they can get some sort of cheap trick or cheap checkmate. But over the board, people are less likely to do that. They're going to fight tooth and nail because they invested so much in playing these games. They really don't want to lose. They'll do anything they can just to even scrape out a draw from these bad situations. So you have to play a more complete game. You can't just get a superior position out of the opening and have that, you know, it's not just going to be smooth from there. You have to play the full game, you know, at a good level, you know, at a superior level to your opponent to win the game. And I enjoy that environment more than online. It has a more intense feel to it, and it's more rewarding when you win. It feels great when you win.
Yeah.
And if you have a good event, and you know you scored 3 out of 4 and your rating goes up 50 or 100 points, like that just feels so much more significant than online. Because online you play as many games as you want. Your rating goes 200 points up and down every day.
Yeah.
But you know, over the board, you're playing one tournament a month, you know, maybe 2 tournaments a month if you're playing very often. So it takes a long time to earn that rating, and when you do get it, it feels much more significant. So, you know, for me, over the board's just, at this point, it's much more fun to me than online. And I really enjoy it when I do get to play it. So.
Got it. Thank you very much. And do you think that playing over the board is a way more stressful than playing online? And what are the other differences? For example, you just mentioned the investment, you mentioned the costs, you mentioned the tenacity and resilience of the players. What are the other, let's say, important elements that you can see that a player over the board and playing online are differentiated about? And what do you think about, let's say, comparison of this group? How much serious you treat online and how much serious you treat the over the board rating? Level, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone over the board is serious. I think that's the difference. Is some people take their online rating very seriously and some people don't. And it goes back to what I said. Like online, you can immediately turn the page on any loss, whether it's a game, whether it's you lost rating. Like you can always just play the next game. It's immediately available.
Yeah.
So some people care a lot about their online rating, and I probably used to be in that crowd. because that was the only rating I had.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of your only measure of how you are improving as a chess player. But once I started playing over the board, like now I care way more about my over the board rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I still care about my online rating. It's still nice to hit those milestones, but you know, sometimes my over the board rating will be going up and my online rating is going down at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't bother me at all. Like that's the best trade-off ever. So yeah, it's much more serious over the board, I think. And I guess you asked if it's more stressful. It can be more stressful.
Yeah.
And I guess that sort of comes down to your personality. So you know, I think it does require a personality where you're not going to beat yourself up over your losses or over your draws, even if you were winning and then you blew it and it's a draw. You kind of have to be able to accept that and move on, or you can get into a situation where you're sort of tilting and have long spells where things don't go very well. So it takes the right outlook. But you know, all of the stress that comes from over the board, personally for me, during the game, I don't feel that much stress. If I'm stressed about an upcoming tournament, or oh my god, my opponent that I'm about to play is 300 points stronger than me, that stress usually goes away once the game starts, because then it's just chess and it's something I've done thousands of times, and it's just, okay, let's find the best moves. You know, that's really all it is. So I mean, that is a little comforting, I think. But that said, if you get into a time scramble over the board, that is very stressful. But you know, that just comes with it. That's part of what makes it more fun too. It's because just the stakes are higher. So you can't have the same excitement when you win without having some stress and having, you know, some bad feelings when you lose.
And probably the equation: no risks, no rewards, right?
Exactly.
There may be some risks to get the rewards, like in the life and the business and so on. Our friend Nikolaus is asking, I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but probably I'll try to ask this question anyway. He asks, how old were you when you had your first chessboard?
Yeah, so I mean, we had a chessboard at my house when I was growing up. So I mean, I think I've always had a chessboard. It's just you know, it was my mom's chessboard that we would play on occasionally. The first chessboard I bought for myself was when I became an over-the-board player, which was a little over a year ago. So I bought a tournament set, you know, for that, because it's a little different from your home wooden set.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've always had one available, but as far as one that I actually owned myself, about a year and a half ago.
Okay, excellent. And now the question about the stuff that you mentioned, that you are competing actually over the board, and this is pretty much very, very intriguing questions. Do you have any specific chess goals? I mean, especially the goals relating to getting into the concrete level. What I mean, for example, being an expert, being a national master, maybe FIDE master, or something like a very, very concrete one, or you just want to have fun and maybe develop as a player. What is your approach over the board about your chess goals, if any?
It's mostly just trying to have fun and improve. So I like seeing my rating go up, and you know, I would say for the most part, I have not really had like a specific like rating target in mind. Like, this is what I want to hit. I think part of that stems from like my rating right now in USCF is 1670 something. So that's a considerable distance from expert at 2000 or master at 2200.
Yeah.
So I think those felt like really stretch goals for a long time for me.
Yeah.
Now, that said, I played in a tournament last weekend and I did really well. I got a draw against a master, which is my best result that I've ever had. So those kind of goals feel a little bit more attainable now than they did. So, I mean, I think for the most part, my goal is always just, I want to hit that next like 100-point threshold. So right now I'm at 1670. So right now my goal is to hit 1700. That's my immediate goal. And I have a tournament coming up this weekend that if I do even reasonably well, I should hit 1700, because I'm going to be playing in the top section and I'll be having much stronger opponents. So Short-term goal 1700. I do feel like now that I can say that becoming an expert is a reasonable long-term goal for me, but I know that even though I can have games with experts and higher where I compete with them, I can score points against them. I don't have a win against someone that high, but I now have a draw against the master. So I know that I can do it. It's just a matter of it being consistent and a matter of avoiding draws against lower rated players and occasionally losses to lower rated players, of course. So I think it is a stretch goal. I think long term, like maybe 5 years or so, maybe I can hit master or expert. Right? So I don't have that as a formal goal, but I do think that is attainable for me, and it feels like something that I can try to push for.
I guess we are talking about United States Chess Federation rating, right? USCF, right?
Yeah. Right. I don't have a FIDE rating in the US. Most of the events are just US rated. Some of the bigger events are FIDE rated, but all the local stuff for me is all USCF. So that's all that I use over the board.
Okay, excellent. And now we are just having just 2 topics to wrap up because we'll be wrapping up in about 10 minutes. Is it okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, excellent. And now I'd like to ask you about your interest. I mean, other interests in chess, especially Shogi. Let's go.
Oh, Shogi is such an interesting game. And I've sort of had this thought before where I think and this is probably going to sound controversial, but I think that Shogi is, objectively, I think it's a more interesting game than chess. And I think most chess players, if they seriously took the time to look at Shogi, they would really, really enjoy it. Now, that said, I think it's probably been about 6 months since I've played Shogi. So I do really respect the game, and I think it's an excellent game. The problem for Shogi among Western players is that it's not very accessible. And I guess I should maybe explain Shogi if some of the viewers aren't familiar.
If you just gave a little overview, what are the differences between Shogi and chess? Because we are not at this topic, therefore it would be great.
Yeah, so Shogi is Japanese chess, and it's very similar to chess. So the goal of the game is to checkmate your opponent's king. The kings function the exact same in Shogi as they do in chess, although there's no castling.
Okay.
There are different pieces. Some of the pieces are the same, some aren't. So the bishops and rooks exist in Shogi, but there's only one per side. Okay. They operate basically the same way. There are knights in Shogi, but they only move forward. So they only move 2 squares forward and 1 square to the side, not 1 square forward and 2 squares to the side. They only move forward, so they're much weaker. There are pawns, but the pawns only move 1 square forward and they capture 1 square forward.
Oh, capture the same way as they go.
Yeah, they capture the same way that they move. There's no diagonal capturing, which also means that things like pawn chains don't really exist in the same way because the pawns don't support each other. And then there's some other pieces that I won't get into too much, but they essentially function closer to kings, but not quite like kings, and they don't have the royal power of if you lose that piece, you lose the game. Okay, but the big difference between chess and Shogi is it's like Crazy House, where if you capture your opponent's piece, now it's your piece, you can drop it on the board on your turn anywhere you want.
Wow.
And the reason that makes the game so interesting is that there's not really an end game in Shogi like there is in chess, because material is never leaving the battle. I mean, it temporarily leaves the battle, but it's always returning.
Yeah.
So you don't get the kind of positions where it's like you're trying to promote a pawn to a queen. That might lead you to think that Shogi's similar to Crazy House, but it is. The rules are similar, but the pieces in Shogi are so much weaker that it's not like Crazy House where if you make one mistake, you're checkmated immediately, because there's no queens in Shogi, for example. So it's a slower paced, more maneuvering, strategic game than you would think it would be based on the rules. But it's a very exciting game. And the reason that it's not so accessible is because the pieces all look basically the same, and they all have a Japanese character on them that tells you what they are. So if you don't speak Japanese, or if you're not from an Asian speaking country, it's very difficult at first to identify which piece is which. So you kind of have to learn to identify the pieces, and that's a big barrier to entry. And there's just not as there actually is a lishogi.org, which is based off of lichess, but it's not very popular. The most popular shogi site is an Asian server. So again, that is sort of difficult for English speakers to navigate. But it really is a great game, and I think any chess player would enjoy it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for this, let's say, like description. And if you can give us a little bit of insight, what is the difference? Of course, if you know, because I was always fascinated by that, but nobody has answered my question so far. What is the difference between Shogi and Go? If you know, of course, Shogi and Go, because to me, these are pretty much similar game, but I know there must be some difference. Shogi and Go. Is there any difference between them?
They're actually not similar at all.
No?
they're,
okay.
They're completely different. Yeah. So Go is you don't have pieces that actually move in Go.
Is that correct? At Go, you're just grabbing the space, some like restricting your opponent. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Go is a 19 by 19 board, and essentially what you're trying to do is you place stones on the board.
Yeah, stones.
One at a time, and they never move. So you're just trying to surround as much space with your stones as you can.
Got it.
And what's great about Go is that the rules are very simple. You place one stone per turn. You're trying to surround space, and if you ever have a situation where you have a stone or a group of stones that have no empty spaces next to them, then that stone gets captured and removed from the board. That's basically the only mechanic of the game. So it's a very simple set of rules, but it's deceptive how complex that can become. And aside from chess, Go is what I play the most frequently. And you know, there's not any sort of direct analogy between Go and chess, because chess is all about the pieces moving around and Go is very static. But I think a lot of the thought process that you use in Go is similar to how you might approach chess. So I think that improving at one game helps you at the other. And I know many chess players who also play Go and are fairly strong at Go.
And let's get into a little bit of controversial. I'm not sure if now it's controversial, but back then it was topic about AlphaGo, because you must have heard about it. That AlphaGo, it was probably 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, right? Something like that, 3 maybe 4 years ago. That AlphaGo outplayed one of the best players in the world, right? The human one.
Yes.
What do you think about it? It was, by the way, it was the same as Magnus would be losing against Stockfish, right? Or maybe Alpha Zero.
Not quite. So the player that
he was probably the third in the world, right? Something like at the top.
He was probably between like fifth, third. He was.
I think
he was a world champion at some point, but he wasn't the current number one or the current world champion. I think he was in his like mid to late 30s, so he probably was slightly past his peak. But for a long time, Go was considered to be sort of like the holy grail of board games that computers would never beat humans.
Yeah, and by the way, the name of the player was Lisa Doll, right?
Lisa Doll, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the reason that people thought Go would be really difficult for computers is because if you think about calculation in chess, like how many plies deep you're having to look, in Go, you're probably having to look further.
Yeah.
You're having to understand more long-term ideas as opposed to short-term tactics that happen in chess. So I think computers are less good at that. Computers are really good at calculating tactical sequences, right? So Go is more long-term strategy. The games last 200, 300 moves, whatever. But yeah, it was really interesting when AlphaGo took out Lisa Doll. I didn't know much about Go at the time. But yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, really that, I view that as when sort of the neural nets sort of took over engines for any board game. And obviously that changed a lot with chess too, when Alpha Zero and then Leela came along. And now Stockfish is using a hybrid approach where they use neural nets, but then they also have the main engine that does a lot of the number crunching.
And it is the most funny because I was a little bit following over the years. I mean, the last, let's say, 30 years, the, let's say, computer scene in the sense of, let's say, computers, programs, engines. And it was back then, I mean, some like the historical perspective, right? Back then, it was something like that. that computer as the programs that was installed on the machines, computer will never reach master level. After some time,
Yeah.
computer will never beat a chess master, something like a FIDE master. After
Right.
some time, it was computer will never beat grandmaster. After some time, it was computer will never beat world champion. And after
Yeah.
that, computer will never beat. And when it was the other games and Go
Yeah.
especially, right? Go especially, and it was something like, oh my goodness, how computer could beat us at Go? And we
Right.
chess players were laughing. They already beat us. Now they are coming at you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, but I mean, it's yeah, the machine learning neural net model is really really interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know a lot of the nuts and bolts, but I find the approach really interesting.
Yeah, we are having the let's say one guy, Buddy, our friend for Jordan, and he was just let's say we were just talking about some of the stuff, especially because back then on May it was the 25 years of celebration. Kasparov lost against IBM Deep Blue, and I make
Right.
some like a little bit of event. Just let's say invited our friend Buddy and our friend Skurly, and we were talking about humans against machines, and it was very much fascinating. Therefore, we are just having a little bit insight into the engines. And the last topic for our meeting is Scrabble. What do you
Yeah.
think about Scrabble? Do you play it? Are you good at it? And why are you fascinated by this as well?
Scrabble's a really fun game, and I mean, I probably started playing Scrabble semi-seriously before I started playing chess, because I played Scrabble online
Yeah.
when I was in high school, and I had a friends that we would sometimes play Scrabble after school, and I mean, we weren't like super competitive, but we were trying to learn some of the the words that you wouldn't know other than that they're legal in Scrabble. So I do think Scrabble's a lot of fun. There's more strategy to Scrabble than people give it credit for. I think a lot of chess players would look at Scrabble and say, well, that is a game of sort of random chance, because a lot comes down to who draws the best tiles. So, and that's true. And, another part of it is you have to have a lot of knowledge of
Yeah.
you just have to know the words.
Yeah.
But there still is a lot of strategy, and it's not just, oh, I'm going to play the highest scoring word here. So I do enjoy Scrabble a lot as a game. I don't enjoy it as much as chess.
Yeah.
Sorry to my Scrabble friends, but that said, I have played an over the board Scrabble tournament. I don't know if you know that. But
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, so earlier this year in January, I went and played in a Scrabble event in New Orleans, which is about 4 or 5 hours away from me. And I had a lot of fun. And I wouldn't say that I'm particularly good at Scrabble.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to the regular person, I'm very good at Scrabble. But compared to a tournament player, I'm not that good.
How would you compare in the chess rating? What would be your rating if we just, let's say, transition into Scrabble?
I'm probably like middle of the pack. So whatever, like the 50th percentile. I may be a little lower than 50th percentile. I'm not sure.
Some like 17, 1800 at chess, something like this way?
Worse than that.
Worse? 16, 15, 16?
Yeah, maybe 1500. If we're putting it in lichess terms, maybe like 1500 in Scrabble.
Okay.
If we're putting it in like USCF terms, maybe like 1,000. But I mean, I played in the Scrabble tournament. I was playing in the lower of the two sections, and I won 9 games and I lost 11. So I was right about middle of the pack there. Although there's actually a story there where there was one game that I actually won, and I should have gone 10-10.
Yeah.
But we calculated the score wrong. I found out afterwards because I put the game in the computer, just like we would do in chess.
Yeah.
And the computer told me that I won, and I realized that we'd counted the score wrong. So really, I went 10-10, but officially I went 9-11.
Okay.
And I was proud to say, for a while, I was the highest rated Scrabble player in Alabama, where I live. But that was because I was the only rated Scrabble player.
Oh.
So one out of one. But recently, there was another player from Alabama that played, and now they're higher rated than me. So I went from the highest rated Scrabble player to the lowest rated Scrabble player.
Because there are 2 players in the pool.
Yeah, I'm the lowest of the 2 players now.
It sounds pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, you go from the highest highs to the lowest lows that quickly. So
that quickly. Even Magnus didn't have that much, let's say, losing streak, right?
Yeah. it's
Okay.
brutal.
Yeah, very brutal. Thank you very much. And now the last question, or one of the last questions, because I do not see many more on the chat, about our friend from our chat, Ollie Paulson from Iceland. His question is the following: what do you think is the most important to learn? Chess, books, playing online, or puzzles? That is all important, but what is the most important?
My opinion would be playing games, whether online or over the board. I mean, it depends somewhat on your personal style of learning. I've always been more of the person that I learn by doing. So playing games and then reviewing them afterwards is the best for me. I'm not the kind of person who's going to learn from a book, but some people might be. Some people that is the most helpful. But I'll add one more thing that wasn't one of the options that Ali listed, which is I think YouTube, watching videos of strong players reviewing the games of other strong players. So like I've said Chess Network a few times, but Chess Network is an NM. He probably is stronger than that, but I don't think he plays competitively anymore. And he does a lot of reviews of like super GM games. But I find that very helpful. And I've learned so much from his channel and from others. So for me, of the things Ali Pal mentioned, it would be playing games, and probably that is number one for almost everybody. But I would also really recommend going on YouTube and watching those game review videos from whoever your favorite creator is.
Yeah, of course. Okay, thank you very much. And another question related to this one: do you have a coach, or are you going to have a coach to speed up your development? Have you considered this?
I don't currently have a coach. I frequently consider it. I think my thing is I have always felt like I'm still improving at chess. And even now I feel like my rating is going up. If you look at my graph on USCF, the rating's going up. So I probably, until I feel like I'm really hitting a wall, I will not hire a chess coach. But I mean, I do think there's great value in it, because if you have a stronger player look at your games, they're going to see things that you don't. And I know that even though I'm improving, I could still benefit from a coach. Like I would improve faster. But right now I'm not doing it. Maybe one day I will.
Okay. And our friend Poskatel, who is a little bit of trolling, he says that you are lying, that Squirrely is your coach.
Oh, yeah.
And what is this
Squirrely
all
has
about?
Squirrely has helped me a lot,
but
no,
not officially, right?
Not officially, yeah.
Okay, now let's go into our, let's say, last fragment. Do you have any questions to me, or maybe for the audience? Or maybe do you want to share some of the stuff that I didn't ask you, but I should ask you, and some like make this a little bit more, let's say, smooth to the end?
Oh gosh, man, I didn't think I was gonna have to ask you any questions.
Yeah, of course, you can do it if you wish.
I don't know. I can't. Oh, we got to look at my Rosen score.
Yeah, a Rosen score if you have. Yes, excellent.
Wow, it says that I've never adopted anybody.
Oh, and maybe it is let's say reference to the Ben Johnson, because at Ben Johnson you said that you do not have any kids. Probably it's true.
Right. I don't have any kids. But
yeah.
I thought I had some chess kids, but maybe I don't.
Yeah, but maybe it is a general.
Is it maybe just looking at, like, do I have to win 10 games in the same session?
No. 10 games in a row. It doesn't matter if it's the same session, but it must be 10 games in a row. For example, if you win 9 games, but you lose or draw, it is not counted.
I just, there's no way that because I mean, I have some people, that I beat all the time. Like, I have to have adopted somebody.
Therefore,
I'm gonna check like one of my viewers that, like, I know I've won a lot of games.
Okay, but
I've played them. Oh, maybe I haven't adopted. Wow, maybe I really haven't adopted anybody.
Because I knew, because I played some of the players, and I played not that much regular, and if I just won 10 games, they put into the list. Therefore, I am just having a lot of chess cats.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm gonna have to have some adoption streams. I need to adopt some people.
If you need, let's say, some of the volunteers to be adopted, I'm one of the first to be on this.
That might be kind of tough. That might be tough.
Take notice that nowadays Stockfish can be set up on the level you wish, right?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be that difficult.
maybe I could adopt you if you gave me like queen odds or something. Maybe.
I guess queen odds would be too much. Probably if I gave you bishop and pawn odds, and I would be, let's say, not prepared about, let's say, changing the structure, you would adopt me. Yes, you would be
You think
adopted.
bishop and pawn would do it? Yeah, I don't think I could do it with just a bishop. With the pawn, with the bishop and the pawn, maybe I could do it.
Yeah, I mean bishop and the pawn, because without the bishop, probably if there are no increment, I could set up the position to close it and not give you the opportunity to exchange pieces and probably trick you.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
And Moscato says Rosen score doesn't matter if it is in the same setting. Yes, that's I confirm that. Okay, and now if we are just, let's say, having any questions, or if you do not have any, let us know how do you feel during this interview, because we have been waiting very long for this one, but finally
this
we
was
did
great.
it.
I'm glad we got to do it. This was a lot of fun. I like the format because, like I said, there's not a lot of this kind of content on Twitch, and there's a lot of collabs on Twitch that happen that it's, two people playing Hands and Brain or playing a match or whatever, and that's fine. I have nothing against that. That's good. I've done those myself, but I like seeing unique content on Twitch, and I'm glad that you're doing that, and I'm glad that I've been able to be a part of it.
Okay, excellent. I'm glad that you accepted the invitation and you were just having fun, because I knew that it would be really nice, but I didn't know if it happens. But anyway, finally it happened.
Yeah.
And as I just mentioned, you set up the bar very high. Probably nobody is going to get that far. Keeping fingers crossed on that. And thank you very much for being the guest. I was pretty much enjoying that. And from the list, because I was from time to time having a look at the list, from the list, I just, let's say, realized all of the points over the list, even a little bit more than that.
All right, perfect. So we got it all covered.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you very much for being our guest. Thank you very much for for everything what you do for the community and for your approach to the let's say viewers, to the players, for everybody, because I know you are treating everybody with respect. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and same goes for you. Thanks for all you do for chess on Twitch.
Okay, thank you very much and take care. Bye.
Okay. See ya.